Hey, welcome to Unperturbed, the podcast where high-achieving Black women come to take off their strong Black woman cape. You know, the one that keeps them people-pleasing, overgiving, and putting themselves dead last. Yeah, we're not doing that anymore. On Unperturbed, we're empowering you to put you first, unapologetically and boldly, so you can show up for yourself the same way you've been showing up for everyone else. This is where empty vessels get refilled. So look, go ahead and like and subscribe to this channel, share it with your sister friends who are running around with empty cups too, and then come kick it with us inside The Haven, our private Facebook community where we go even deeper. Trust me, you need this space. Head on over to enterthehaven.net to join us. All right, it's time for the best part. Let's get into it. What's up, everybody? Hey, it's your girl, Dr. Rhonda. We are back for another episode of Unperturbed. Listen, I don't know if you are as excited as I am right now, but I'm very excited. I have my friend on this episode. Her name is Renee Ventrice, and Renee is, we call her the cruise director. She is the bringer of the good times, right? Renee is wine concierge extraordinaire. She's amazing. So welcome to Unperturbed, Renee. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much, Rhonda. You are absolutely one of my favorite people. I channel my inner Rhonda anytime I need to walk into a room like, oh, I got this. And
I love that. I love that.
Seriously,
I love that.
I see you doing karaoke and like you're,
my WAP, I'm going to
I know your move. I see it in my head. And when I'm walking up onto a stage or I'm walking into a room, I'm bringing my Rhonda-ness with me. So thank you.
I love that so much. Thank you again for being on the show. When I saw that you wanted to be on the podcast and you were accepting my invitation, I was super excited because I think you have such a unique perspective on strong Black womanhood. And I know that there are things that we need to talk about. You are really good at saying what people are thinking. And I was like, if anybody is going to give it to us straight, it's going to be Renee. So before we jump in, I just want you to introduce yourself to the people. Let us know, what you do and why now? Why is Unperturbed kind of your thing right now?
Wow. Okay. Good question. So yeah, I am Renee Ventrice. If I were a superhero, I would be the pairing phenom, because what I do now after, starting and selling a very successful tourism company is I pair my clients with their ideal collaborators and champions and other, clients, buyers, shoppers.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I do by day as a community connection strategist. By night, I actually pair wine with life, cuisine, and all these beautiful experiences beyond the bottle. So it became very clear to me as an entrepreneur that, yes, I like to start businesses and I like to ideate. I like to bring ideas to life, but I get even more joy about bringing those people who would enjoy that together. And so that's where the fun maker, the Julie, the Love Boat creator comes in. I like to join that amazing product or service with that person who either knows they need it and are looking for it or have no idea that they need it, but now that they found it, they can't get enough.
Right.
So that's my deal. I like to make both my clients and my wine irresistible to the masses, in moderation, of course.
Right. Responsibly.
Of course. So why Unperturbed? But when I saw Unperturbed, it made me realize how perturbed I have been for years.
Wow.
Over the past year or two, I've been working out of being perturbed, but I didn't know that was a great word to describe what I was feeling and what I was now becoming.
Unperturbed. Yeah.
Yeah, I was becoming unperturbed. But when I saw the name of your podcast, I was like, that is the word for what I am. I am no longer letting certain things bother me that, by the way, did weaken me, right?
Mm-hmm.
I found the vulnerability was actually one of my strengths and actually helped me to feel stronger because I was stripping away layers of things that were perturbing me. And so now this unperturbed me is not afraid, to speak about my experience, even though it's different than others, even though it may offend others. Let me change that. It will offend others.
Yeah.
I'm not afraid to say things that are unpopular anymore because I think I need to toe a line to stay aligned. Oh, that's a good one.
Toe a line to stay aligned.
Toe the line to stay aligned. That is not what I have to do anymore.
Yeah.
And when I accepted all the things that I was, in one way or another, that's how I became unperturbed. And so I knew that we had to have this conversation either over wine, just the two of us hanging, or on this podcast with part 2 being over.
You should have mentioned the first part first. We could have done both. I could have gone and grabbed a bottle. I mean, I know it's early in the day, but I mean, it's 5 o'clock somewhere.
Well, it is. Matter of fact, in Italy, it is 5:19.
I was just about to say that, and I think it is in Europe.
I'm not a drunk. I'm on European time.
Right.
But
right.
Well, I'll see you next week at your new chapter experience, because one of the things becoming unperturbed meant for me is no longer limiting myself to not trying things that I've always dreamed about trying, but let something kind of stop me thinking I'm not ready, or I don't have an audience for it, or I'm not good enough to do this. I'm looking forward to the first fail, because that means that success is going to be even better than the original.
Right.
So it's a real mindset shift. I'm telling you, Rhonda, as soon as I saw the word, check with your VA. That email went out like at 12:19, 12:22, Renee's application was in.
Well, I love that. I want to talk about, you mentioned, your vulnerability, how you have hidden your vulnerability. Can you talk a little bit about why? I know, for some people, vulnerability is a bad word. They're saying, I want you to be vulnerable. You need to be more vulnerable. Be like, pump the brakes. I'm not ready. Yeah. What was that for you? What kind of kept you from feeling like you could be vulnerable?
So I didn't know that I wasn't at first. I thought that I was being transparent, that I was, really feeling all of my feelings and being honest with myself. I truly thought that I was for the longest time. It was 2020 that really made me recognize that I was doing all of this on top of a surface of something really malignant and toxic and dangerous for my peace down here. I was doing everything way up here. 2020 showed me how much of the world that I could not control and how much of that affected me. So we all remember it. It was not just the pandemic. That was actually one of the better things that happened for me personally, because I was able to get rid of a lot of noise. I'm an introvert, have her moment. But, Ahmaud Arbery and, George Floyd, after Michael Brown and Trayvon Martin. I'm the mom of a 26-year-old young man who, was going to school in West Virginia at WVU, and also, lived here in Northern Virginia. So, doesn't matter how much we have in the bank account, doesn't matter what my zip code is. He's still Black, I'm still Black, and we still have things that become a part of our everyday. That wasn't a part of my everyday growing up, because I'm a military brat, and then I was also active duty. But as a military brat, my tribe was the enlisted people, right? There are the enlisted, there are the officers. There's the poor, there's the rich. There's the east side, there's the west side. I was all over here on the east side, poor enlisted. And so that was the tribe. Color was not really a part of it. There were so many different cultures, right? Look, until I was 10 years old, I thought white men were supposed to marry Korean women. I mean, that's just what
because that's just what you saw. Yeah.
That's what we saw on the base. Everybody was gamished. It wasn't about, what you looked like to make your tribe. It was what you did, who you were, where you lived. So to say that I grew up it wasn't without seeing color, because I think that's one of the stupidest things people can say. But it was about color not being a delineating factor in whether or not you belonged. Okay. So that's Renee, 1 through 18. Fast forwarding to the military. Again, who's in that foxhole with you? Well, maybe it's a little different, but who is it that are, that protects you? And it was the people in my company, the people on my watch floor. And we were men, women, Black, white, Puerto Rican, everybody just a freaking. I mean, it was, again, I didn't see being a woman or being Black as a factor. Forward to moving back to America in 1998. Now, this is my first time living in America as an adult woman, right? At 19, I came back pregnant, married at 28.
Wow.
Yeah, had not lived. My entire 90s were spent over in Europe, in Germany, in Spain, where I was always different.
Yeah.
Different because I was American.
Right.
That's what
And
I
it
led
never
with.
dawned on you that it would be different because of anything else.
No. I
Yeah.
was like, okay, I'm an American. I'm different. I need to speak, some of their language as best I can. I need to show them that Americans aren't ugly and entitled and, yelling at them slowly in their language. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
So that was my job, was to prove that I was not an ugly American. Still never even thought about my blackness as a factor other than what kind of hair products, what kind of lipstick, what kind of foundation.
Right. Can you find makeup? Because one of the things I found in Germany, ain't no makeup for us over there.
Whoever goes over there and starts a makeup line is going to make a killing.
Rich.
Killing.
I found that out. I had an airline lose my luggage and my makeup was in there, and that's how I discovered they ain't got our colors over there. But anyway,
you gotta end up faking like you're kabuki or something. You gotta put on this all white face and walk around like you're in a costume.
Yeah.
So again, of course I'm black. I know I'm black, but it wasn't one of those things that defined me as better or worse. It was just different. Like they thought that all black Americans knew Oprah and Michael Jordan back in the day, and I may or may not have faked it.
Right. Yeah, we're sisters. Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Right?
Came over last weekend, no problem. Yeah.
So you went through those questions, that curiosity. So my formation of life in my 20s was people being curious about me being black, not being threatened by or annoyed by or anything. I mean, that was the life of the damn party. Come on, right?
Yeah.
I get back to America and I start to realize that being, black had some kind of negative connotations. And I'm like, what? Talking about fabulous.
Right.
Time just keeps on marching. And I start to realize that things are different here. And I still don't really get it. And then black people didn't understand me either. They're like, well, what do you mean you didn't think of that? What do you mean you didn't grow up with an African American upbringing? I'm like, well, no, I didn't grow up, around all black people. I grew up with military people.
Right.
So needless to say, I was now completely adrift. I just didn't have any place that I really belonged. I sounded too white for some black people, depending on where I was. I looked too black for some white people, even though I sounded a lot like them. And then when they saw me, they were like, and I'm like, I don't understand why this matters. I just don't. I understood why it mattered when I was in my 20s in Europe. Well, it's because I was American and I wasn't in a country where this was my first language. But this is supposed to be my people. It's supposed to be my country. So now that is, and I'm not really, I'm internalizing those thoughts, tamping them down. Not being accepted by other black women in Pensacola, Florida. Okay, well, I'm just different. I'm from Nebraska. That's why. Not being accepted by other, black women here in Virginia. Okay, well, maybe they like to do different things than I like to. I always gave myself a reason why somebody didn't really accept me. And then, back around 2019, like going into 2020, some women were very honest with me and were like, quite honestly, you just don't seem to have the same views that we do. You don't seem to have the same kind of values. It just isn't really a good place for you. We wish you all the best, but we just don't know that you're a real fit for this. If you're wondering who said that, both white women and black women. Wow. And I was like, oh, so I'm a misfit toy, huh?
Right. I don't fit in anywhere.
I don't fit in anywhere. So I was like, that's okay, because I'm good with my own company. I can hang out with my husband and my family. I've got these friends from the military who I can lean on. Yeah. Now I'm building this whole facade on top of all of this pain.
All this pain. Yeah.
And I'm pretending that it's not pain. I'm pretending that it's just like, oh, it is what it is. I'm fine. I wasn't fine. And in 2020, when everything just kind of came like crashing in, where I started to feel hopeless for my son, started thinking, oh my God, did I raise him to become an island as well? Because look, he grew up in what people call cash prime. We do well. He was one of few black kids in his class, just like I was. He identified himself as a baseball playing black male, who played video games. It didn't lead with the blackness, but I was like, but it's not going to make him alienated by others. And so now I'm taking on that kind of trauma for him, afraid that I have now effed my kid up.
Right.
I cracked. Yeah. I started to admit that it pained me not to have a tribe, that I felt alone. And I never admitted that myself before. So therapy. I talked to a great therapist who understood what I was going through and made me realize that a lot of times I was putting those limitations and those thoughts onto people who might not have really actually thought that. That I
Exactly.
needed to stop thinking that about myself in order to project the kind of confidence that made people see beyond me, assuming that they weren't going to think that I was one of them or that I belonged with them. You knew this was going to happen.
I knew that was going to happen. We are Team Crybaby, and it is fine. I'm always there with you. Always.
Thank you. So once I accepted myself fully and realized that belonging starts with me accepting who I was, then I became really more unperturbed. And then I started walking into these rooms differently. I didn't walk in like into a room full of white people trying to make them feel comfortable that, oh my God, it's a black person here. Well, no, you can't use the N-word in front of me. No, you can't touch my hair. And this is what
my blackness looks like.
Yeah.
This is my version of it. Yeah. Because we're not all the same.
Exactly. We're not gonna look just like you. Two blondes are not the same person either, right?
Right.
So, I made it my mission to make sure that when I walked in, I didn't walk in saying those things anymore. I walked in knowing those things. And I walked into the room, and the room that I was walking into, why was I there? That's what I would lead with. And that's what people would end up feeling. Instead of me walking in the room being like, well, I know I'm not white, or I know I'm not tall, or I know I don't have a college degree.
Or do I belong? I'm not sure.
Yeah. I stopped bringing that with me. I mean, I literally put it all into a jar, and I put the lid on the jar, and I pushed that jar out off of a cliff, and just watched it just disintegrate. Like, those kind of visualizations really do help me.
Yeah.
And so I walked in differently. When I walked, the first room I walked into full of black women that scared the shit out of me was January 2023. Were you there? That mastermind in January?
Yes. No, not in January. I didn't come along until April.
Okay. So I walked into that room. I didn't know what to expect at all, but I fully figured that I was going to be the oddball again. They're going to be like, who is this weird Oreo over here? Right? That's what I thought. Yeah. Turns out there were other weird Oreos. There were some weird Nutter Butters. There was some weird, spinach eating crunchy granola people. Like, all of us, everybody had their own version of weird.
Yeah.
So I didn't feel so alone anymore. And then I felt very free to say, who I was, how I was. I grew up in Nebraska, and I'm a military brat, and I spent my 20s overseas in Europe. And I didn't know that, being black was an issue until I got back to America in 1998.
Yeah.
Who else has questions, When that room accepted me, and that room was full of women like you who were just big personalities, strong, free-minded women who think at an elevated level, who understand different life experiences, come along with everybody and embrace them. I was afraid to say that I was home because I didn't want to feel rejected again after finally feeling like I was home.
Right.
I mean, I don't get too excited,
Yeah.
Until they get to know you, and they might not like you, So, but I had to keep going through exercise to keep that. Mm-hmm. So I'm sorry, that was a very long way of saying that it started with me no longer feeling like I didn't belong, deciding where I wanted to be, and only being there. Why would I try to keep belonging in places where it wasn't my groove, wasn't my vibe?
Exactly.
I stopped trying to belong to these groups that were very focused first on blackness, because that isn't my first focus when it comes to business. My first focus is green. Who has the money?
Has my money?
I feel like Mr. Wonderful. Where is my money? Who is going to not only be able to afford what I can do, but also bring me joy in providing it?
Right.
Who am I not going to have to convince that I belong? Who's going to know that I am their people? Yeah. So becoming unperturbed for me, and recognizing how perturbed I was admitting to my pain, exploring it, using tools to stop hanging on to it. Let's face it, sometimes
we are hanging on to it, for sure. For sure.
We're so used to it.
Yeah. It's like learning, it's like having, when you've got arthritis, right? Mm-hmm. You that knee hurts all the time. And you get to a point where either limping is your norm, or just having this low level underlying pain is what you have all the time. And after a while, your brain tunes it out. And you stop thinking about it. And on the days when you can not think about it, you think you don't have the pain. It's still there. You're not healed. It's just that you're not thinking about the pain anymore. It's not until something happens and you have surgery or you find a new medication and the pain goes away that you go, I didn't realize how much pain I was actually in on a day-to-day basis until it was gone, because I learned to live in pain. I learned to be happy in pain. I learned to function in pain. So that in pain thing, it just was a part of life. Just like, yeah, I've got hair, I've got pain, I've got, it's just something that we learn to live with. And I think
I thought it was the way it was just going to have to be.
Right. Right. And a lot of us, I wanted to kind of go back to something you said, that you just kind of learned to push that feeling down. Like these people don't accept me. These people don't accept me. And that freaking hurts. And rather than sitting with that hurt and finding out why that hurts, our natural reaction is to say, well, it doesn't hurt. That didn't hurt. That didn't hurt. That didn't hurt.
Because I'm a strong Black woman.
Because I'm a strong Black woman.
I can handle
it. I can show up. You hurt me. I don't have to deal with it. I will just put it away and I'll show up anyway. And I'm all right. And I'm strong. Yeah. And we not only act that way, but then that's the standard we set for ourselves. So anytime anything hurts, we don't deal with it. We just say, I'm strong. I can deal. I don't need friends. I don't need to belong. I'm bad by myself. And we tell ourselves I'm a loner because I don't fit in and I don't belong anywhere. And I'm like, but your heart deep down desires to belong. So if you're given a desire to belong, then that means that there is a place for you to belong. It's just that you haven't found it yet. And what a lot of us do is close ourselves off so that when we do find the place where we can belong, we won't allow ourselves to belong.
Nope. And I was doing that. I was putting it away. I was pretending I didn't need it because I didn't think it was there for me. So I flipped the script and said, oh, well, I don't want to belong to that club anyway. So who cares if they don't accept me?
Yeah. I didn't want to be a part of your dumb group anyway.
Yeah. Right. It's the lie you tell yourself. And it's not always a lie. I mean, sometimes it is a group that you really don't want to be a part of. There are groups here that are very, very popular and very, very influential that are full of people that I don't want to align myself with. And so I'm okay with not only do I not go after being a part of it, I'm okay with not being there. But there were those groups and there are those groups of women who I really did want to know, why don't you like me? What do I
Why don't you like, you just want to ask them, what's wrong with me? Why don't you want to be my friend? Yeah.
I just want to know what it is, because if it's something about you, then I'm cool with that. But if it's something about me, I want to work on that.
Right.
What I had to work on, what I found was I was bringing that energy of I don't belong with me. And so even if they liked me, they would even think, yeah, she seems cool and all, but
she's kind of standoffish. Yeah, she's not really. I didn't think you liked me. You get all of these things later, right?
Yeah.
I didn't think you liked me. I just was afraid to approach you. Because you walk into these spaces closed and you radiate. You're not going to accept me. I'm not even open to trying because you've already.
And I thought that I wasn't doing that.
Yeah. And you've drawn people's boundaries for them, right? You've told them. This is how far you can come with me and no further. You're like, Heisman the people, like you will 100%. Not let them get close to you. And I talk about that in the book. Yeah. There's a whole chapter on that, about how we walk into these spaces with this preconceived closed door because we've been rejected and we just assume there's more rejection, but we're not thinking that. Our body is just in this natural deflection. We just have this shield up and we think it's strength. We think it's poise and class and I'm just up here and nobody understands me. Yeah. But if we sit you down and really peel back the layers, the issue is I want to belong and I'm afraid they won't accept me.
Yeah. And accepting that made a huge difference.
Yeah.
And it's hard sometimes to sit and say that, I wasn't accepted by the Black community. And people are like, oh, that's just childish. Blah, blah. I'm like, well, no, it's really not, because you have to understand that I didn't spend my 20s here. People will bring up there's some TV shows and cultural things that were happening in America. I have no idea what they're talking about. Something in Park. There's some show that's a number and Park that people sometimes reference. I'm like,
106 in Park.
Okay. 106. Okay.
Yeah, right? You're like, whatever. It could have been 3rd and Park. I don't know. It's cool.
You could have said 6006 in Park, and I would have been like, yeah, that show.
Yeah.
I've never seen it. I don't know anything about it. When people reference it, I'm like, and they're like, girl, what were you doing in the 90s? I'm like, my job in the military overseas.
Right. I was being an adult, protecting your
you
freedom.
know,
That's what I was doing.
I didn't go to college. I know nothing about Greek life, Black Greek life. Somebody made a comment once about the colors that were on somebody's site, and they asked if they were an XYZ. And I was thinking like, oh no, it was purple and yellow. And I was thinking New Orleans and Mardi Gras, some sorority or fraternity. And I was like, oh, I just thought I liked Mardi Gras. I don't know. Yeah. So I did not come up with any of that. Now you asked me some military terms, but don't ask me military terms because I debriefed myself fully when I got out.
Right.
But ask me about dogs and wine. Man, I can talk about those all day, every day.
Yeah.
So so I had to start accepting the fact that just because I don't know I don't know the African American things. Because look, Black and African American are different. You call my Jamaican friend African American, she's like, I'm Jamaican. You can just call me Black, right?
Right. Absolutely.
Right? Yeah, so once I started to realize that I'm not the only Black person who doesn't know African American things. Yeah. We're not a monolith. There's
right. You still get to carry a Black card. It's okay. It's all right. Yeah, you still get you get a different version. And it's okay. I'm with you. Like a lot of Black movies and people like, have you seen so-and-so movie? And I'm like, no, I didn't. They're like, oh my gosh, are you Black? Yes, I am. I still am.
I will admit my card is more gray because I'm a big Barry Manilow fan. And so I accept that,
You accept that part of it.
Yeah, I accept that part. I don't know how to spell Wu-Tang. I don't know if there's a G or not. And my husband, since he is such a big fan, he, gets me a pass.
He's helping you out. I love that.
So I am who I am. And when I accepted me, it took me about a year and a half of therapy to really relax into who I am and be happy with it and be okay with sharing with other Black people. Yeah, if they ask, I don't walk in the room anymore feeling like, room full of Black people, they're not going to like me because
I've got to come in here and be Black, or I've got to go in there and I've got to be white.
Because I think code switching is bullshit. I'm like, is it code switching when I talk differently in front of my mom than I do in front of my girlfriends? No, everybody does it. Why are we tasked with not changing the way that we speak when everybody changes the way that they speak in one way or another? I can't stand shit like that. I don't know who started that, but I want to punch them in the face because I just think it's stupid. We should be allowed to have a vernacular with our friends on the corner and have a vernacular that we speak when we're up on a stage.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I think a lot of the issue comes in with code switching when code switching requires you to erase who you are. Mm-hmm. It doesn't make me function better out there.
Yeah.
It erases who I am. So if I speak with a heavy accent at home and I come and I code switch at work, it's so that you can understand what I'm saying, because you may not understand my patois. You may not understand, our dialect or our slang in our culture and in our house. Right. And so coming to work and speaking how everybody else speaks, cool with code switching. But when I have to shut off parts of me, I have to pretend that the hair that grows out of my head isn't good enough, that, my look isn't good enough. The way that I talk, if I say things in a specific dialect, I'm ignorant. Or just because I talk real Southern, people can interpret that as, you're not smart because you talk like that. Well, some people just do. Yeah. And so that, when we have to start now diminishing ourselves, and we can't show up authentically. And I've had people tell me, like, I've been on calls where people have talked about how unprofessional dreadlocks are. I am a leader. I've been on calls with senior leaders as a senior leader talking about how employees look unprofessional with dreadlocks. And I'm just sitting on the call like, I know y'all see me. I know you see me since 2007. I know this is the look, right? And so, to have to show up in those spaces and feel like I just can't be me because I won't be accepted. And there's this pull because you feel like I shouldn't have to try to earn your acceptance. I'm good just as I am.
Right.
But then I've got to fit in because I want to be promoted. I want to excel in my career. I want to excel in this space. I want to have colleagues and peers and feel like everybody else does. It's just, it can be really tough. So for you, Renee, how when you found this space and you felt like I might be able to belong here.
Yes.
And you were in that stage of, you were still in that space of, I could belong, but I'm not going to really try it because y'all might reject me. What was the thing that let you know it was safe? And then what did you do to embrace the safety?
I love this question. No one has ever asked me that. So when I got into this space and I decided that, okay, these people seem like the people that I would want to accept me, here's how I'm going to do it. My old Renee would have hidden everything and tried to mimic and chameleon, right?
Mm-hmm.
Being from the Midwest, you know how when people from the Midwest, sometimes we can like pick up on an accent of what's being spoken, and we can easily slip and slide right into it. I say y'all all the time. I spent so much time around people from the South. Now that really is part of what it is.
Right.
But that's why we're newscasters, right? Because we can kind of, slide into whatever it is we need to do since our accents are in the center. The old Renee would have tried to act like those people to make them like me. Like if I'm like them, they will like me for that. The unperturbed Renee said, I'm going to give them both barrels. I'm going to go even a little, like they're going to get like the completely unstripped, unfiltered.
The unhinged version of me, right?
Unhinged. And unhinged is actually a very good word. The unhinged version of myself. Yeah. And see what happens. Because look, I'm tired of carrying around wondering whether or not somebody will be offended by me or they're smiling in my face. Well, so when I went all the way in on exactly who I was and showed it, some people were repelled by it. Thank you for making space for those who love me. Right. Those who were like, oh, you are my people. Let's continue talking. Ended up giving me a really small, cohesive tribe of people who now have seen the real me and are great with it and and also have the same issue, or in a different, it could have been the same feeling, but brought on by different, churches, whatever it was. But I found other people who also loved the fact that I was both these things. I was this professional who could talk about, business and collaborations and marketing and pulling together a community organically. But I'm also that bitch who couldn't sit there and pull out the best bottle of wine and the cheapest bottle of wine and show what the best thing is about each one of them and get you a party no matter what your, where you are with it. And so when I was able to show, look, I'm multidimensional and so are you. People who accepted all my dimensions loved it. But there was one person who actually said to me, she was like, I'm not sure about you. I want to like you, but I'm not sure that I do. And I'm saying this with love. Can we sit down and can I get to know you better? Because I don't know what I don't understand about you, but there's something. And we sat and talked for almost 2 hours. Wow. And it was so refreshing for someone to say, why are you so loud? Why? You said X, Y, Z, and it made me wonder what made you, frame that? Why do you think that Black women don't like you? Why, why, right? So we sat and had this great conversation, and now she is somebody who means so much to me, somebody who brings me so much like peace and joy, and she really does love and embrace who I am, warts and all. Now, is she going to bring me home to meet her mom? Maybe not. I might be for her mom. But do I mean something to her? And am I somebody who's special in her life, who she gets and understands and loves? Yes. I don't need somebody to love every part of me, but I need them to understand every part of me and be like, look, I get
and just and accept that I don't have to. I love that because you don't have to fit into her definition of you. She got to understand you and decide this is the relationship that we can have. And I see you now and I can embrace. I love that happened. I wish more people would do that and have more conversations because I feel like a lot of times we dismiss, and we don't like what we don't understand and we don't like people we don't understand. To have that question, to have somebody say to you, I feel like I could like you, but I don't really understand you. Can we talk more? Like that is a beautiful thing. And your decision to take a risk, your decision to say, I'm going to drop this mask. I'm going to be all of me. And you either like me or you don't. Absolutely. That is the real acceptance. So on the other side where you were like, oh, I don't need anybody, I'm fine. But there's this underlying pain. On the other side is, I really am okay. You
Yeah.
love me or you don't, but I'm going to show up as me every time. I'm not going to pretend I'm okay if I'm
Yeah.
not. I'm not going to pretend to be something I'm not. I'm going to be me. And the
Yeah.
people who love me are going to adore me. And the
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
who aren't meant for me are just going to be like, she a real one, but she's just not my cup of tea.
Right. And I'm okay with that too, because guess
Yeah.
what? You might not be my cup of tea either. Look,
Right.
vodka in here. I'm joking, there's not. But if there was, you hit the nail on the head though, right?
Yeah.
It's like, when I was able to get somebody, when she took that moment to say, I want to understand more because I think that there's something in there. I just haven't found it yet. Could you imagine what the world would be like if more
If
people were,
more of us just said, hey, I don't get you. What
I don't
is
get
your
this.
deal? Can we just
Can
talk
we have
about
a
it?
conversation? You know, another thing I hate, it's not my job to teach people.
Yeah.
Do you want them to go someplace else and try to Google it and find some misinformation and some bullshit? Or do you want to be the one that they had to be vulnerable and ask you this question? Can't you respect somebody for asking the question and then give them what they need?
Right, right.
So,
Recognizing that they have humbled themselves. And I understand it's not like my job to go out and be everybody's teacher. But if you have recognized that you have a deficit and you are vulnerable enough to come to me and say, I really don't understand and I want to learn more, I'm happy to tell you more. Because that took vulnerability and it took you respecting me and respecting my feelings and respecting my experience enough to come to me and say, I know I'm not doing the right thing and I want to do better. Well, isn't that what we all want? We all want everybody to do better.
It's what we should all want, right?
Yeah.
And so when that happens, when people have that conversation with me, I get to understand where their belief system came from.
Right.
You'd be shocked at how many people our age, well, you're younger than me, but how many people in their 50s grew up thinking that, Black people were descendants of apes and white people were the chosen ones. Okay. It's stupid shit like that. You're like, really? But I've met people who really had to unlearn this type of bias from the tiny little town with 500 people
and they were taught by somebody who was just as ignorant as could be.
And my military experience living overseas taught me that when I was the only Black person somebody had ever seen before, and they came up and said, look, I've never seen one of y'all in person. I've never even met anybody else American. Can I ask you some questions, or is that offensive?
Yeah.
I don't want.
Right.
I don't know when I'm going to have another chance to meet somebody like you. I'm like, pull up a seat. And luckily I spoke German. So I was like, yeah, let's talk. And so I would answer, questions. I would say like, okay, well, first of all, before you ask, no, I don't know Janet Jackson. And, right. Make a joke. And so I really did. So my whole life my dad always taught me, when you walk out that door, you don't just represent Renee, you represent this household, you represent the Ward family. And when you're overseas in the military, my dad's retired Air Force. When you're overseas, you represent everybody Black in America. Don't let me find out that you're embarrassing yourself,
and all of us,
your culture and your country, because I'm going to come over there and whoop that ass. So I've always felt a responsibility to represent myself in that way. But that said, I didn't put anything around being Black. I'm like, okay, well, that's easy check mark because face. Okay, now be respectful, learn the language, support others, whatever. So it's really, and I know it sounds trite to say it boils down to being yourself, because it's not just being yourself. It's understanding and accepting yourself, knowing that feeling that pain is okay because that's where the growth is. It's not called growing pleasure. It's called growing pain. It's not coddling creates diamonds. It's pressure creates diamonds. And so when you start to think of yourself as a diamond and you recognize, okay, this is just that pressure that is going to, when the end of this pressure happens, there's something beautiful on the other side. Stop fearing the pressure. Lean into it, Yeah. It's the way I had my baby. I had my son naturally. I didn't use any drugs. I had to fall asleep. Right? I not had to fall asleep. I fell asleep and had to be woken up to push because I used this technique where when you feel that horrible pain, you know the progress that it's making. And so you actually lean into, and I don't want to say enjoy the pain because that's weird, but you appreciate it and know that on the other side of it is growth, not something to fear, but something to like embrace.
Right.
I took that as one of the examples, and I start using all of these things. So when I am in pain, I figure out why, I embrace and accept it. I figure out how to use tools to get to the other side of, okay, this is the benefit of going through this pain. And then when I'm on that other side, I'm like,
yeah, that's awesome.
It's not that I don't hurt. Of course I hurt. It's not that I don't ever feel rejection. Of course I feel rejection. It's that I don't let it take me into a dark place where I hide from it anymore. I run to it, and I'm unperturbed by the pain.
I love that. I love that. We're coming to the end of our time together, but I want to ask you one last thing. I know you mentioned how being unperturbed has changed your business in addition to your professional life. So talk to us briefly about that and some of the things that you have coming up and how we can stay in touch with you and all of that. Because I know there are so many of us who love wine. We love good food. We love a good time. So I want to know more about what you got going on too.
Yeah. So, yes, when it comes to the wine, it's funny. I've got those two tracks, right? I've got the coaching, for strategy, and then I've got the wine. Love pairing them both. In October, I said to myself, this wine thing comes really easy. Maybe I need to lean into that and do more with it. You and I are going to work together on a book this year around it. So I decided I was going to sideline some of these coaching things. Do you know the same week that I did that, these old leads that I had been, trying to work, to get into these bigger coaching contracts came back at me and said, hey, we want to revisit your proposal. Can we get on the phone this week? And I ended up between October and now landing 3 major clients, one being the actual goal I set for coaching back in 2023, after I had said, you know what, this is not going to be a big priority. So what happened is I was confident enough to go back in and do these things. So the wine events, I work with this winery in Tuscany where they fly the sommelier over to do wine dinners with me. That's what's happening on February 13th here in Ashburn in Loudoun County. I'll have hotel packages if people want to come from, from other parts of Virginia or the DMV. Come have some wine. You've got a great place to stay. You get a great night, great food, 5-course, elegant meal, elegant entree, elegant wine pairings with 2 sommeliers, me and one from Tuscany. On the other side of that, my biz relationships. As you know, Rhonda, I love a good mashup. Biz relationships, business relationships.
We know you like wine o'clock, and
wine o'clock.
Yeah.
What is your wine personality? People are going to find out which wine they are based on this personality quiz. But so with the biz relationships, I am definitely welcoming in anybody who is looking to connect with their community in a deeper fashion organically to grow their business through minions, making them millions. So I'm also, I'm still doing both. I still pair, I pair what you need, right?
But you need people, I got people. You need wine, I got wine.
Yeah, wine. You want it, I got it.
I love it.
I got a guy. That's from my
husband. I got a guy. So how can people get in touch with you?
They can get in touch with me. It's very easy. It is reneeventrice.com. And on that website, you will find, all my coaching opportunities, consultation. If you just want to have a conversation about you want to be less perturbed, let's have a conversation. So that way I can then introduce you to Rhonda.
Absolutely.
So you can find me at reneeventrice.com. It's that on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. I don't TikTok or Snap, so don't look for me there. You won't find me. And if you do, it's not really me.
Right, it's not me.
Not of me.
Yeah, absolutely. this has been such a great conversation. I have enjoyed our time together. And so thank you so much. Listen, for y'all who are listening to the podcast or watching the podcast, I need you to connect with Renee. Like, there is no better time to be had. You got to do it. But I just appreciate it because I don't know that we have talked with anybody so far who has talked about really becoming unperturbed, like recognizing and acknowledging that that's where they were. And then actively taking the steps to become not that, right? So I appreciate this very, very much. Thank you for consenting to be on the show, for sharing your knowledge and for sharing your story. I appreciate you, my friend.
You too, Rhonda. I appreciate this space. Thank you so much. And I'm excited to see you soon.
All right, y'all. Thanks. Take care. See you next time. Hey, thanks for joining me for another powerful conversation. If that hit home for you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss what's coming next. And definitely share this with a sister friend so she can get in on this too. Now look, don't just stop here. Let's continue the conversation inside The Haven, my private Facebook community where we get even deeper and do the real work of shedding the strong Black woman mindset. This is a safe space I've curated just for us. Head on over to enterthehaven.net to join us today. Now, before you go, drop a comment and let me know what resonated with you the most, and I'll catch you in the next one. Until then, take care of you first. See you soon.